How have you been recently?
I've been doing pretty well. I just got back from a trip to my sister's in Michigan for my father's birthday, which was good. It was kind of exhausting, but that's family events. I always forget about the issues that my family has until we're all back together again.
What do you mean?
Well, my papi has always had some issues with my youngest sister, Sophia. He's just very traditional and she's not. And this was a birthday party that she planned for him, but it was more of a way for her to show that, you know, she's not the crazy teenager that she used to be. She's not running off and having sex with random men. She has a husband and 2 kids now. But he refuses to accept that, and he just sees her in the same way that he always has. You know, she's just the same teenager who got caught smoking weed and sent to the Dominican Republic. But my mother just lets him do that, and she knows Sophia isn't like that anymore. Like, she's pretty close with her, but she just lets him think that, do whatever he wants all the time.
Is this a pattern you've noticed with your mom?
Definitely. She's always done this since when we were little. It's like she's never had an original thought, but these inventions that she made when we were little, it's like she wasted her brain power on them. But she just does whatever she wants whatever other people want her to do.
Do you have any examples?
Well, when we first moved to the suburbs in Long Island, I walked to and from school every day, and one day a man pulled up in his car and masturbated in front of me. And I was traumatized. It was horrible. I was only 13. And I went home and I told my mother about it, and she called the police, as one does. And I was almost as scared of them as they were of me. Like, when we were in the Dominican Republic, the police there was Trujillo's secret police, and that was terrifying. And these men looked exactly like the boys who teased me at school for being Dominican. But when they were talking to my mother, they called her a responsible citizen for calling the police on the man. And she was just so happy about it. She thought that just because they called her a citizen, she was American now. You know, they thought that she was American. And she forced me to talk about the incident with them, even though I was scared of them and I was terrified of what had just happened. She sacrificed me to make her feel more American and to resolve the issues that she was having with being an immigrant in the United States. And I had those problems too, and I still do, but she had no right to do that to me.
What issues did you have being Dominican growing up?
Well, I mostly felt out of place, and I know my whole family did, but it was definitely worse for me than it was for my sisters, since I lived in the Dominican Republic the longest, and I missed it the most. I had the best Spanish and the worst accent, but they had a much easier time in school than I did. I was teased and I was called names, and I wanted so hard to fit in, but I'd never sacrificed anyone for that like my mother did.
How have you been recently?
Pretty good, except I just got back from a really stressful vacation in Michigan. My sister hosted my papi's birthday party, and it was definitely an interesting experience.
How so?
Well, there's a lot of tension between Sophia and Papi because of her new lifestyle, like her German husband and all, and I just don't really think he entirely approves of that. So the birthday party was really just a way for her to try and earn his trust and his approval back in her life.
How do you think your parents, your father in particular, handled the party?
He seemed pretty aloof about it. You know, all the excitement and the activities, it didn't really seem like he seemed that excited. Especially during the game where he tried to guess which one of his daughters kissed him. I think that was just another way of Sophia trying to gain his approval. And my mother, now that I think about it, just seemed pretty disinterested. Just wasn't really into what's going on, and that seems to be a pretty consistent pattern of her life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we've always had a strained relationship in terms of the personal details we share with one another. I definitely recall her being interested in me as a child, but as I've grown up and had intense, personal experiences, I realized she's been less and less likely to show interest in them.
Do you remember any specific instances?
Well, there's sort of a backstory to it, because I vividly remember being at a restaurant in New York City when I was much younger with this couple that was really important to my parents, and the Fannings, the wife was really drunk, and I remember her kissing my father while we were in the bathroom, and I was just so dumbfounded by what was going on and confused, and I felt really guilty about what I'd seen, so I didn't really tell my mother about it.
So how does that relate to your strained relationship?
Since she never really expressed an interest in my personal life, I never felt the need to help her with hers. I recently went through a really bad mental health breakdown, and I was in rehab for a while, and she didn't really take an interest in trying to understand what was happening or grasp what was going on. And so the struggles just escalated really quickly, and I ended up collapsing and being in a really bad place. And since I never felt like I could bring up my issues with her, and since she never really showed an interest with me, I didn't feel like I owed it to her to share with her the experience of what I saw that one time in New York.
Okay. How have things been going since we last met?
Things have been fine. My sister Sophia just planned my father's birthday party. And she made it, as elaborate as she possibly could, with a band and performers and, elaborate details like silly party favors and, paper hats and balloons. And there were so many guests there, half of them she didn't even know. But it seemed to be more about Sophia. I mean, I understand that she wants to improve her relationship with our father, but, it seemed like she got caught up in trying to be able to say, I made this grand gesture for my father, to fix our relationship when really it was like she didn't even have him in mind when she was planning the party. This is not what he would have wanted. He would have wanted a small family party. She just wants to be able to say that she made a grand gesture to fix their relationship. And because of that, he was kind of just on the outs the whole time. He wasn't really talking to anyone. He was being very antisocial, and clearly he was uncomfortable. And I could tell that it was mainly because he, doesn't really know how to navigate this new role of, American father with mature children. He helped us through our transition to America, and now he doesn't really know what his place is in our lives anymore, and I think he feels that he's becoming obsolete. I just felt really sad for him the whole time.
This sounds like it really bothered you. Did you talk to your father about it at all?
In hindsight, it probably would have been more useful to just talk to him about it and, try to see if I could make him feel better and kind of bridge that gap, but I didn't. Instead, I thought it would be fun to involve him in a little game, so I suggested that we all, that my sisters and my mother and I blindfold him and each kiss him so that he has to kiss him on the cheek so that he has to guess which sister kissed him. I just thought it would be a fun family game, just a way to make everyone laugh and involve him and show him that, he's still a big part of the family and that we're close. But of course, Sophia had to ruin that. She, very provocatively kissed him, and it made him very uncomfortable, and he stopped the game right away. And for the rest of the party, people were kind of just trying to figure out how to leave, and my father was again very uncomfortable, kind of on the outs. He wasn't talking to anyone, and it's understandable. Like, he didn't really know anyone there besides a few of his friends and our family, so it felt very much like a way to only further ostracize him from everything that's going on in our lives.
Do you generally feel like you have to protect your father or go out of your way to make him feel happy?
I have mixed feelings towards my father. I think that he tries to act with my best interest in mind, but he doesn't always exercise that in a way that makes it clear to me. I think it's always easier to look at the things he does for me now as an adult, or he did for me now as an adult, and kind of realize what he was doing. When I was younger, I was chosen to make a speech for my graduation, and my family thought it was this huge honor, and I had severe writer's block for days and days, and I had no idea what to write, and I came across this kind of epiphany where I decided that instead of glorifying the work of my teachers, that I would lightly criticize them in a way that's, very accepted in American culture, I felt like. And when I read, and I worked so hard on the speech, and I finished it late at night the night before, and when I read it to my father, he was horrified that I would ever speak badly about someone that had authority over me, and he ripped up my speech, and I was so upset, and I couldn't understand why he would ever do something like that. But looking at it now, I guess I see that he just wanted me to reflect the good Dominican values of, respecting those who, respecting my teachers and respecting my parents and, respecting the older people in my community. So I understand. And, in that way, I kind of feel like I did for him at the party what he did for me when I was younger. I'm just really trying to, have him understand how to navigate his role as, a father in America who doesn't need to have complete control over his daughters, but can also be a part of their lives in a healthy and useful way. And I think that that's hard for him, especially now that we're grown up and independent. So I think that's part of the reason why I did that.
So what's been going on recently?
Well, we just had a party for my papi. It was his birthday, and we have a party every year, but this year it was my year to host, or I convinced him to let me host. And the only reason he even came to my house to have the party was because my son, who has the same name as him and is basically a little version of him, hopefully not, but had his christening the same morning that the party was going to be, so we made it like a joint event. But it was so stressful because I also had the son's christening in the morning, and then I had my dad's event at night, and I had to deal with all the relatives coming and getting the food and the entertainment, and it was such a stressful day. And I felt so much like pressure from everyone in my family, from my sisters, from my papi and my mom, to make it perfect because there was so many people coming and everyone cares about his birthday so much. It's like a huge event for us, and I was busy the entire time, like going from one meal for little Carlos to the meal for my family and doing this and that, and relatives calling to congratulate us or wish happy birthday. And it was like really important to me that this went well because I have been trying to fix my relationship with my dad for so long because it's been basically destroyed. And the whole point of having this event mixed with my son's event was so I could reconnect with him, and so I worked so hard to make sure it was perfect, but it didn't really end up going that way.
Did something specific happen with your father, or is this just some ongoing turmoil?
I would say both. My dad and I have always had issues, and right away, even though I was trying to reconnect with him, we had issues because there was tension immediately. He treated my son and daughter completely differently. Like, he was idolizing little Carlos even though he's just a baby, and he would ignore my daughter as if like women don't matter or have no rights compared to literally a baby boy. So I was already frustrated with him from the beginning. And even though I tried to connect with him over and over again, and through my child, through my son, through just the party and the family, like, he actively tried to do the opposite. Even this stupid game Yolanda brought up, I tried to like make myself known, and he just wouldn't include me as part of the family.
What's this game you're talking about? Can you elaborate?
So Yolanda, my sister, decided to play this game for who knows why, and we all like kissed my dad, and he was blindfolded and he had to guess who it was. So it was the four of us sisters taking turns, and every time he guessed who it was, he would always say mommy first because of course his wife, and then he would say the other sisters, like kind of mixing it up, but he would never say me. So he would say like Carla, Sandra, Yolanda, but never me, of course, like even use their nicknames and everything, but he just purposely left me out. And I like decided to make my presence known because I was so frustrated with the fact that he wouldn't include me, and it's been going on forever. And I guess like looking back now, it was kind of stupid, but I basically like licked him instead of kissing him, and he was so offended. Like, it completely went the opposite way, and it just did the opposite of what I wanted to do. I wanted to reconnect with him. I wanted to be a part of the family, and he just kept rejecting it. So then I tried to make myself known, and it just had the opposite reaction. And to make it worse, like, the only reason he even would know it was me if I did that sort of kiss was because he brands me as like the whore daughter out of everybody, and it's been like that forever. Like, ever since I was young, he's only thought of me as the over-Americanized, like, over-sexual, disrespectful daughter.
Is this connected to when you ran away for the first time?
Yeah, it's definitely, like, similar issues that caused that problem. When I was younger, my poppy and I would always fight about stuff like that, like, about boys and rules and everything that he wanted me to be that I couldn't embody. And so that time I ran away, I know I've mentioned it before, but I don't think we've really talked about it, but it really connects to what happened. So when I was like a teenager, I met this guy who's now my husband, Otto, on a trip, and we had written letters back and forth because he lived in a different country, obviously. And my dad found the letters, and he confronted me about it, and he was really, really angry. And he basically said to me, "Are you a whore? Are you my whore daughter?" And it was terrible. I like felt so like dehumanized and like not even a part of the family. And basically, I could tell like he was already ostracizing me from being one of his daughters. So I was so angry at him, and I could feel that he was never going to like view me the same way. So that's why I left, and I ended up running off with my husband now, and that worked out. Obviously, I love him and we have children, but my relationship with Poppy was completely destroyed. For years we like barely even talked. He wouldn't say my name. He wouldn't talk to me at all. Like even when we saw each other for his birthday, he wouldn't acknowledge that I was there. And even though I tried so hard to fix it with this party and everything, I feel like now we're in the same place because of my stupid mistake and Yolanda's stupid game, and it just ended so terribly. Like, he's always expected me to be this perfect, like, little obedient Dominican daughter, but that's just not what I am. That's not who I am. Like, I'm not daddy's little girl. Like, people have sex, I'm gonna have sex. That's not what I am. And I don't know who would be that, so I don't really know. I spent so much time on this party and nothing good came out of it.